A little more about the balancing strategies of the author of Acts, who, as you remember, is responsible for the Gospel of Luke too. This time I will focus not on the function of the Spirit, but on the location where it is given. The whole trajectory of Acts, as we have seen, indicates the expansion, and thus the gift of the Spirit occurs in different places, highlighting the broadening of the scope of eschatological redemption. On the other hand, the first exemplary outpouring of the Spirit is described in chapter 2 of Acts as taking place in Jerusalem, meaning in the vicinity of the temple, on the Shavuot Pentecost holiday, for the celebration of which the temple provides the sacred center. And our author explicitly emphasizes that following the reception of the Spirit, first Jesus' followers not only remained in the city, but spent their days in the temple, as it is in Acts chapter 2, verses 44-47. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they sold their possessions and goods and distributed them to all, as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they partook of food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. In fact, already in the beginning of the first part of his double treatise in the Gospel of Luke, our author made it clear that he viewed the temple at the center of holiness, the closest place to heaven. It is there that the officiating priests were thought to be exposed to heavenly revelations, like it happened to Zechariah, the future father of John the Baptist, to whom an angel spoke concerning the fate of his son. It's Luke chapter 1, verses 5-11. In the days of Herod, king of Judea, there was a priest named Zechariah. Now, while he was serving as priest before God, when his division was on duty, according to the custom of the priesthood, it fell to him by lot to enter the temple of the Lord and burn incense. And the whole multitude of the people were praying outside at the hour of incense. And there appeared to him an angel of the Lord, standing on the right side of the altar of incense. So the temple, as the place of sacred worship, provides for the presence of God's revelation. A tension can be felt between the outpouring of the Holy Spirit everywhere and the upholding the supreme sanctity of the temple as the locus of revelatory experiences. Characteristically, this tension is not resolved. As I already indicated, the author of Acts has no place in his eschatological scheme for the destruction of the temple. It seems that according to him, it is in the temple that the disciples were waiting for the return of their master. In other words, with all that eschatological expansion, not only the centrality of believers from the people of Israel is upheld, but also that of the temple. If we embrace the appraisal according to which the double treatise of Luke Acts took its final form somewhere in the 80s of the first century, meaning after the destruction of the Jerusalem sanctuary, the compiler seems to represent the circles in the Jesus movement which still anticipated the restoration of the temple in the time of Jesus' return. Unlike slightly later period, when the perception of the destruction of the temple as punishment for the rejection of the Messiah would become dominant in the movement. It seems that even few decades later, the position of Acts was still pretty widespread. That is why the author of the so-called Epistle of Barnabas from early 2nd century vehemently attacked those Jews and seemingly some people within the Jesus movement who shared this aspiration for their hope for the restoration of the temple.